One of those expecting a response in any form, apology, clarity, etc. from the Deputy Trade and Industry Minister, Robert Lindsay, you'd have to wait a little longer because he's not commenting anytime soon. He's the latest government official to attract excessive public backlash following his outburst at the just-ended Diaspora Homecoming Summit. Well, if you have yet to see that video, or have already seen it, here is a refresher.
Nobody likes whiners. People that spend all their time whining all the time, I really get on people's nerves. So stop whining. Stop spending, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this, please, we know it doesn't work. So stop whining all the time saying it doesn't work. If it worked, you probably wouldn't be sitting there. So nobody likes whiners, so stop whining. It is not every time you want to make a decision, you have to see the minister, the deputy on every head. What is this thing? Where did this come from? Do you know how many people want to actually sit down and meet the Minister of Labor? Have you been to his office? There's hundreds of them. What is this thing like, I have to see you, I give me your cell number? This phone doesn't stop ringing.
You are right. We have the money and we have the expertise. We came here to sit with the decision makers to formulate policy to help us integrate us into the system. Where are the decision makers?
But it was there already. It's been there since morning.
Where are they? They are nowhere around here to listen to us. So now everything we talk about here is going to be second and third class. It's going to be washed out, and whatever is left is going to be passed on to the decision makers. Everybody comes in here and has an attitude that, oh, I got something better to do. Well, if this is the biggest now, if you're a business person and you know that there is a constituency that has the most amount of money and the most amount of expertise that you need into your business to make it work, I would have thought you would spend more time with that constituency to get them to do something. There is nobody here. The decision makers are not here. So we need to change this mindset. And if you would let the president know, this attitude and this arrogance about we are whiners, really? Who travels 3,000 miles to be a whiner? We could have been whiners from our constituencies. We didn't need to come here. So this attitude has to change. If you want to engage us, then be serious about engaging us, because we're not here to play. Thank you.
All right, so you've seen that banter, and I'm sure you followed it on social media and all the comment that it has attracted. We've been trying to get the Deputy Minister to comment whether or not he feels it's been taken out of context. His outfits say they're not commenting on this matter. Instead, they're telling us that the longer version of this address, they direct us to that address on YouTube. So we'll put a bit of it together from where he talks about whining, a little before that and a little after that, just in case he's been taken out of context.
Perhaps to the chagrin of some of my colleagues, at the age of 40, I took a decision to resign as the Vice President of Coca-Cola Africa and packed my family and moved to Ghana. I'm not sure if my family is still completely forgiven me yet for that fact, but that is something I decided to do because that was important. And I'm going to try and use my own example to explain maybe and share with you why I think that was probably the most important decision I've ever taken in my life. I recollect at the time I took the decision that I was sitting on President Kufuor's Investment Advisory Council. And I had fortunate enough at that time, I was sitting at 5 other presidents' economic advisory councils. But when I came to Ghana, I think I was the most critical. Maybe because it was home. I lamented the fact that I couldn't get a home. Things didn't work. I really had a go at all the ministers. I just kept at it. And in one of the meetings, the president turned around and said, you know, one of the problems with you diasporans, not that we don't want you, you complain and tell a very good story. But whenever I ask any of you to step up to help, you run so fast, you can't believe it. A year later, I had resigned and came and headed the Ghana Investment Promotion Center under President Kufuor. So perhaps I took that challenge. I gave up my British citizenship passport so I could take this role that I have. And so now, I guess, I'm not sure if I can still call myself a diasporan, but I'm standing in front of you as somebody who sat exactly where you're sitting, made some of the hard decisions I know you are thinking of, And perhaps I can share with you some of my experiences to help you as you transition this journey, because I believe it's a journey worth taking. I will say some home truths that you may not like, but you need to hear it. Because as you make a decision to take this journey, you need to be aware of where you're coming from. So the first area I'm going to start talking about is you as a diasporan, your approach as you come back home. How do you approach it? Do you know something? Let me share something to you, and I will use a lot of British words here, so please forgive me. Nobody likes whiners. People that spend all their time whining all the time, I really get on people's nerves. So stop whining. Stop spending, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this, please, we know it doesn't work. So stop whining all the time saying it doesn't work. If it worked, you probably wouldn't be sitting there. So nobody likes whiners, so stop whining. The second point, it is not every time you want to make a decision, you have to see the minister, the deputy on every head. What is this thing? Where did this come from? Do you know how many people want to actually sit down and meet the Minister of Labor? Have you been to his office? There's hundreds of them. What is this thing like, I have to see you, give me your cell number? This phone doesn't stop ringing, yet we have an office. Your approach is important. When you are talking to people and you are talking down to them, you are not likely to get a lot of reception coming the other way. Remember, phonetics. There's a reason why they invented the word phonetics. The way you speak English is different the way I speak English now. So understand that some of the colloquialism that you use are not what is used here. Think about your approach as you approach this opportunity to bring what you have learned and gained to bring forward.
That is the Deputy Minister there, Robert Ahumka Lindsay. Well, let's have a look at what some of you are saying on Facebook. It appears in what he says that the approach is important, is the point he tries to buttress. But what do you think of that comment, and what are you saying on social media? Let's start with Richard Oseireko. He says, I'm still trying to find where he says something wrong here in this video. Well, maybe he might have just told the people the sad truth, which hurts them so much. Samuel JC said, I respected in power, but I believe the president should sack him. And there's a comment that's not particularly related, but you're talking about your national service allowance, June allowance that's been on hold, but we can move on from there. Basically, you're saying the National Service Secretary should release your money or communicate to you. I'm sure that they've heard you. They'll pay some attention as well. George Alonzo Kwekwe says, very lousy talk. I'm glad he got his match. He'd regret ever being that arrogant and unwise to know that the Deputy Minister of Trade is technically an ambassador of Ghana with a modicum of knowledge in diplomacy. And then you sigh. Champon Opokwajima says, find out the meaning of whiners before you drop a comment. What the minister was talking about was the same thing the guy was slanging about. Very interesting comments there. Samuel K. Ankuma says, this issue is very delicate. In my opinion, the minister held the bull by its horn. It is unfortunate that in Ghana, we always have to rely on highly placed people before we take actions or do something right. However, I believe strongly that this bad attitude which derailed development is as a result of how bad our leaders have been. Power belongs to the people. Our institutions must work, especially our local government system. Don't understand why power is still centered at the top. It is wrong. We must fight this. Jay Sterling, that I'll take a couple of last three comments. Jay Sterling says, hypocrisy is the norm of most Ghanaians, especially those who put their votes on autopilot. We'll see nothing wrong with this. The funny thing is he said, this phone never stops ringing. But when he raised the phone, it was silent. Okay. Godfred Baji says, know your audiences and address them accordingly. These people, perhaps you want to say, are not foot soldiers who want pocket money. These are people who have stayed in the cold for only God knows how long, coming to invest their hard cash and expertise, and you take them for foot soldiers to call them whiners. That is savage. Well, savage, you want to say, and crass, Mr. Minister. You need to refine your communication skills for good. Finally, let me make this my final call. Let me quickly run to Bright. Bright Abu Sechi says, Asking Osai Kwame, what do you have to say about this? How different is this guy from an inexperienced minister handling the ministry? I think an inexperienced minister would have handled such an issue more maturely than this minister did. Okay, well, you perhaps mean an experienced minister. All right, so those are very varied comments. So not so varied though. Some not very happy with the minister, the deputy minister, and others actually trying to make sense of what he says within a particular context. Well, did you have a backyard garden growing up? Many Ghanaians have fond memories of having a plot of land close by where they can get some fruits and vegetables for the kitchen. And the best part is they were purely organic and healthy. But where do you find the space to have a backyard garden in a concrete jungle like urban Ghana? JoyNews' Forgive Amadeka will show you how you can do just that by using an egg crate or a soft drink bottle.
Organic gardening is very simple. In simple terms, it means that you are growing crops or other plants without the aid of artificial fertilizer. I have sawdust in this container. We have soil that we took from our backyard. We have them together so that when we mix them up, it allows the soil to become a bit porous, so that it allows enough adequate water and nutrients and moisture in it, so that the tender roots of the young plants that we will be planting will penetrate through the soil easily and allow it to grow at the rate that we want. What we have here is compost. That is organic fertilizer, compost. In simple terms, is a mixture of byproducts from our kitchen. It has to do with leftovers like lettuce leaves. We have banana leaves. We have tissue paper. We have eggshell. We have tea leaves. We put all this together. And so you do not want to attract flies and pungent smell on your compound. So you put it in a convenient place and you work it out. Sometimes, if you are in a hurry to get your plant fertilized, you can even blend this and then you make what we call liquid fertilizer. We can see this was a beverage container that has been cut, and this wrap has been hung on it so it can hang comfortably. So what we do is that we can put soil in this, and once they get full, we can plant in them and then hang this wherever. We are doing this also so that these days a lot of our young people, because of work, white collar job and others, they don't have time, and also they live in accommodations that do not really belong to them. And so having a backyard space that we had as we were growing up is usually these days very limiting. And so once you have something like this, you can hang it at your backyard or under a tree or in front of wherever it can hang conveniently at the house. With this, you just dip your hand in it like this. You put the tomato seedling in. You press it fairly together. Then you have your plant. It's a bit turgid here, but it's going to, revive itself after a while. Or water it like this, and then find a place to hang it. This is also seed tray. They have different sizes. You can see these ones are narrower and these ones are bigger. All we can do is to fill them with soil. Like this. we get them filled up to the brim, we can get seeds and put them in. We will ask ourselves, where do we find seeds? You don't have to go to the market to buy seeds. The tomatoes that we use from the kitchen, wherever at home, we can just cut it into two, get the seeds out from them like this, and then we place them in the seed tray and then put a little soil over them. So that can go and then occupy this whole space and then this place as well. And then after a few weeks, they will germinate into transplanting stage. Then we move them into another non-expensive container, which is the pure water sachet that we've been throwing about. Cut the top, and then we cut the base for drainage. It is important to cut the base because once you cut it, it allows for water to drain. When water becomes stagnant in a container, your plant will wither and die.